Success and power.
Luck, perseverance, and a few smarts.
Risk is what life is all about.
Soda jerk with a PhD in physics.
The first million, then the rolls, the plane, and the home on the Riviera.
Risky Business with Tom Sillen encounters with people from the world of business. People who have taken a chance and won or lost. Men and women who beat the odds, broke the rules. Successful, unconventional people leading exciting lives. We'll meet them, explore their lives, and find out what makes them tick. Hello, I'm Tom Sillen. Imagine a life in which you arise well before sunrise each workday and are chauffeured miles through the darkness. You enter a small room alone. Here you proceed to work yourself up into a near fever pitch of comedic excitement. You play music. You tell one-liner gag jokes, attacking every sacred cow society offers, to an audience probably half your age. When it's over, you go home and you get to work on the next day's show, so you can do it all over again. Talk about risk. Do you think you could do that? Well, today we're going to talk to a man who does just that, and has been doing it for decades. He's Dr. Don Rose, the self-admitted last of a breed of AM radio rock and roll disc jockey personalities who supply the hype and excitement that help make contemporary music sell. We'll learn about the price and the pain this kind of a life exacts, and about the rewards the doctor has found. Dr. Don Rose, welcome to Risky Business. We might well call this show Keeping It Up at 51. I want to know how you do it morning after morning after morning.
Oh, it's simple. Every morning I get up and I brush my teeth with gunpowder and I go to work and shoot off my mouth.
You're still on the air. 4:27 a.m. Whatever made you pick that specific time to wake up each morning?
Oh, that's real simple, Tom. That's the last possible minute that I can get up and comfortably go about what I do to get ready to go to work and still make it out the door in time so that we don't have to race to get there.
Aren't you chronically tired?
I mean, in fact, do you mind if I take a nap?
I mean, seriously, getting up at that hour of the day, now, of course, maybe you're used to it, but...
No. I hate it when people say that. You never get used to it. The hardest day ever to get up will be tomorrow morning.
Don, what do you think about if you were working 9 to 5 vis-a-vis your health, given the problems with your leg and what have you? You think you'd be better off in terms of health doing a regular job?
Oh, I'd like to think so, but I don't know how to get out of the business. Can you help me?
Heart surgery. You had open heart surgery.
In 1972.
In 1972.
I was case number 337. That's back when it was brand new.
Now, would you in any way say that the heart surgery was related to any of the stress on the job, or was it a more physical thing?
No, I don't think so. That, of course, is cholesterol that plugs your veins and eventually shuts off the oxygen supply to the vital organs. So you have to do something about it when that happens. Now, of course, they have alternatives, and I probably wouldn't do surgery nowadays with the Pritikin thing, which I think is excellent, and other non-evasive measures that they can do.
So do you feel that it's a risk doing a job like this, given the kind of time slot you're in, or do you feel that it would be a risk if you were just doing something mundane?
Sure, I think that's basically it. I don't feel any undue risk or any undue strain in doing the show. It's if it suddenly went away, I would be a very unhappy person, I'm sure. I'd have to find an outlet. I'd have to go around doing door to door. The time is 7:25. It's 53 degrees in the city.
Now, you did work for several years with a great deal of pain, did you not?
Yes, that's true.
And that's related to your leg. What went on there, actually?
Well, after the open heart surgery, which went very well, the post-op care left something to be desired. I got a hospital infection. It eventually shut down my whole system. I went code blue, died. They resuscitated me back with a dirty piece of equipment, and then I got serratia marcescens, which eventually went to my left knee, and I went back to the operating room 11 times for 11 surgical procedures, and they couldn't save the knee. So they had to cut it out and then take the 2 pieces of bone and fuse them together and just hope that they would eventually grow into one piece, which they did, but it left me vulnerable to falls and things like that. And indeed, that happened in 1975, just a couple of years after I'd come out here. Gone on a hunting trip up in Washington and was walking across some logs, and all of a sudden a hole appeared in the logs. My foot slipped down and I fell backwards and it just went crack.
Don, then what happened a couple of years ago? You ultimately lost the leg, didn't you?
Yes, that's true.
Is it true you slipped on a banana peel?
No, actually, I think it was a grape, but it was some kind of piece of fruit that somebody had carelessly tossed on the sidewalk, and I'm going to my car, and my last step, my left leg, my foot comes down, hits it, slips off, and goes down about 8 inches on the curb, and the leg was not very strong anyway, and it just shattered. And one minute I'm taking a step, and the next minute I'm looking up at all the buildings up there and wondering, how did I get here on the ground?
And the leg was finally amputated.
Yes.
Yeah. What about the incredible pain you were suffering from all of this time? Was that a problem, coming in morning after morning after morning and doing the show while under such pain?
Well, you know, the only time it didn't really hurt, Tom, was when I was doing my show. Because I would concentrate so fully on what I was doing that anything else there wasn't any attention paid to them. So that was probably the best therapy in the world. And for somebody that's going through an amputation or something, it's a wonderful outlet if you can do a radio program.
And if I remember correctly, you did many of your shows from your hospital bed.
Yes, that's true.
Must have been quite an experience.
I did 62 in 1975, and then 2 years ago I did, I believe, 42 shows.
Going back to your childhood, do you remember yourself as being kind of a crazy kid or a risk taker when you were a child?
Oh, I was probably the opposite. I was shy, I was introverted, I wore thick horn-rimmed glasses, and I was kind of a studious kid, and I was going to go into nuclear physics.
Really? Well, where'd the wackiness come from, or when did it come?
Well, I guess it was always there, but only around close friends and people I knew well. Fortunately, I know everybody in San Francisco, so I could be wacko.
You've done some interviews yourself. What were some of the most challenging interview that you did?
Well, one of my favorites, believe it or not, was Richard Simmons, because the guy was so off the wall, and I was so off the wall, that we just had a great time together. I loved working with him.
Just one more question about the health situation. Do you feel that actually doing the work you were doing was a benefit to you during that time you were having?
No question about it. It was my therapy.
Real therapy, yeah. If you were to have an opportunity to interview Dr. Don Rose, what are some of the questions you'd ask of him? And don't answer me right now. Hang on. We'll be right back. Think about it.
Says she never goes out with fewer than 3 guys at a time here in San Francisco. That way, if 2 of them fall in love, at least she's got a ride home. Right.
To be a high-energy, early-morning rock and roll disc jockey, Dr. Don Rose has to be, as he puts it, a big dumb nut. Born a shy Nebraska kid, Ron Rosenberg, in order to learn his zany craft, moved from stations in the Midwest to Texas to Atlanta and Philadelphia, and finally San Francisco. Exactly where we left off. If you were,
that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
What would you ask him? What would you ask him?
Why are you such a big dumb nut?
What would be curious about Dr. Don? What curiosity would come up in your mind about Dr. Don Rose? Let's see, you're a KFRC listener.
That's really my question. Why are you such a big dumb nut?
Why are you such a big dumb nut?
I don't know. I think that's the way God made me. I really do.
Is that and you're well paid.
I was a big dumb nut before I was well paid.
But then you found out that it paid, so you continued being.
As a matter of fact, I want you to know I was fired from my first 3 jobs in radio. And the reason I was fired was because I wasn't a big dumb nut. I was doing my impersonation of what a disc jockey should be like. And it was awful. I mean, it was just terrible. And finally, after being fired 3 times in a row, it took me months to find another job, as you can well imagine, and my ego was about that high. So when I finally got one, it was in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and 2 fantastic things happened to me. Number 1, I met Kay, and she's been my wife for 27 years now. And the second thing was, instead of being the worst disc jockey on the staff, I was the best. So they said, since you're the best disc jockey, we'll have you on in the afternoon, prime time, and oh yeah, you got to get up and do the morning show too. And I thought, oh, couldn't take the idea of getting up in the morning. I was not a morning person. But you know what? Nobody ever said a word about that wonderful professional disc jockey who was on in the afternoon, but everybody talked about the crazy nut that was on in the morning. So That was it.
At least you found that being yourself was what really it was all about.
That's it. There are two things you have to learn in broadcasting. What you can do, then you have to practice it and hone it and make it perfect. And the second thing is you have to find out what you can't do, and don't do it ever, under any circumstances.
The rewards of all of this, they are considerable. It's rumored that you make in excess of $300,000. Let's put this one to rest, Tom. What do you make? What do they pay you?
Well, $300,000 is right it. The only problem is $200,000's in free advertising.
Do you have any concern ever over losing it? Not so much today, but you know, in the days when you were climbing up, in terms of losing, just what if tomorrow morning I go in and they just don't like me anymore?
Actually, I think that becomes more of a problem as you go along. And here I've been here 13 years, and I've gone through my bag of tricks. So what do? I have to, number one, recycle, which is not good, or number two, find some new tools and some new things that'll work for me. And that is the big challenge. The challenge is not getting on the air and doing the thing, because that's the fun part of the job. As much as I hate getting up in the morning, once I get here, once I got a cup of coffee in my hand, and once the hustle and bustle starts, you get carried up in it, and then it's fun. But the challenge is, after you get off the air, to put the time in that it takes so that you can do it. And you know what? Every morning I have really a lousy show. I get up and I go home and I sit down at my computer and I work until I've got it right.
Given the fact that you are making good money, what kind of investments are you doing? What kind of risky business are you involved with? I mean, investments and...
Well, yeah, I think I'm in the same position as a professional athlete where everybody comes at you with some kind of a scheme. And I have found through the years, the word with investments is control. I only want investments that I can control. I don't want to be a limited partner where somebody else decides how things are going to be managed. I want to be in charge of my own destiny. So the investments that work for Kay and I are real estate things that we own. And we own some apartments and we own some single-family residences. And I have great faith in California and I have great faith in the Bay Area, so I like to put money in real estate.
What about other job offers? I'm sure you've gotten many of those. Have you found it a risk or a challenge in turning any of them down?
There's a risk in turning them down. There's also a risk in taking them. And probably at this point, I guess maybe you become more conservative at my stage of the game. The longer you're in the business, the better known you get. And if you stay in one market, you stay in one place, eventually you make some friends and people know you. And then you've got some name recognition. And radio is such a democratic thing to be in, because when I leave here, if I went, say, to L.A., I'd have no name recognition at all. I'd have to start from zero again and work my way up. So it's very democratic. Everybody starts at the bottom every time they make a move.
How about your ego? Does that get involved? Do you have a public persona? If tomorrow morning something happened that you were not on the air here, God forbid, would it bother you personally down here that, geez, they're not hearing me anymore? Maybe I'm not going to be as well known.
I think undoubtedly the answer to that is yes. It would bother me. It would bother me a great deal. In fact, I took the whole family one time to Europe, and we have 5 children, so we're talking a family of 7. We go to Europe, and they gave us some cabins for the channel crossing. It was a 24-hour trip, or 12 hours, I guess. So we took the, and here I'm in bed and my youngest son is in the little bed next to me, and I'm talking to him and talking to him and talking to him, not realizing that everybody in the whole sleeping area could hear us.
Oh boy. And
the next morning, and I didn't say anything bad, of course. I mean, John was 11 years old, but the next morning he went to his mother and he says, "Mom, why does Dad talk so much?" and Mom says, "Well, I guess it's because he's used to talking on the radio, and if he doesn't, he'll explode."
Among the other things that you're rewarded with is some recreation. You do some sailing.
Yeah, that's my pet thing in this whole world. I love sailing.
And you've sailed
to Hawaii in 1980. I was sitting on up at Lake Tahoe one time in the middle of the lake, thinking, I've had some professional success, things are going pretty well, why am I not happier? And I thought, I need a new challenge. And the challenge was to learn how to sail, because I'd never been on a sailboat in my life, and to sail it to Hawaii. And 18 months later, we were there.
You did it.
We did it.
What about there's a lot of sexual innuendo on the show.
I didn't know that.
You didn't? Well, you ought to listen to your show one of these days.
I'm sorry, I only talk about things people are interested in.
Is there any risk in that you may get problems from management, for example?
I have never really had problems that way, and maybe it's because I paid my dues, people know me, and if I say something, they'll realize who it's coming from and realize next I'll be talking about Kay or the kids or something like that. And I wouldn't really want to offend anybody.
What about, Don, the fact that you're talking to a shrinking audience? We're talking about AM radio, number one.
That's true.
Number two.
I can tell you this, Tom. 10 years ago, the AM band, 70% of the people were listening to AM. Now, 70% are listening to FM. So you're absolutely right.
Does that concern you as each year goes by?
Of course.
What do you do in order to try to hold on to what you have?
Try to be funnier, try to be more topical, try to give them things.
So you've got to really...
And there isn't any Dr. Don Rose. Not since we sold our FM station. Now, there was some real risk takers, our board of directors, that did that.
Let's hit this. Thanks, Don.
In fact, maybe I check your horoscope for today. Let's see. Today's a bad day to do push-ups if you've been drinking prune juice. 926. The IRS is hassling Don St. John because last year Don paid his taxes with a smile. They say cash, check, or money order.
The rewards have been great for Dr. Don. A big six-figure income, a sailboat, soon a motorhome, a new house with a pool and a view of Mount Diablo east of San Francisco Bay, and the kinds of investment opportunities only the likes of pro athlete sees. But still, he is subject to the winds of corporate change. Don, you were about to tell me about the intended sale of KFRC at one point.
Oh, this was our FM station, Tom. They decided in their infinite wisdom that FM would never, ever win in San Francisco, so they sold our FM station. Before that, I was on both AM and FM, and our ratings were, you know, very, very good. Now the station is Camel, and they've done...
The game form to stay out in left field and do games. Was that a threat to you?
It was a threat to anyone within 300 feet of the place. Are you kidding?
And how did you really feel about that? When
it was an unmitigated disaster.
You were PO'd.
Right? Well, listen, I've got some tools to work with, and I've got to work with the tools they give me.
Did you argue about it?
No, they were quite determined to do it.
They were adamant about it.
Yes. I did let my feelings be known. I thought it was a mistake.
One challenge to you, as well as your colleagues here, I imagine, is the fact that RKO, which is having a lot of antitrust problems with the government, is being looked at very judiciously and being told maybe you ought to sell some stations, and has sold a couple of television stations under duress. What about KFRC?
I can't imagine having to sell any more. They might make the corporate decision that that's the thing to do. And from my standpoint, they have been excellent broadcasters. I think they have a better commitment to public affairs. I think it's certainly not a token effort with news, because our news department wins all kinds of awards. I think KFRC is a very well-run radio station.
Going back for a minute to your horrendous schedule, you get up at 4:27 in the morning, you must go to bed at a god-awful early hour. Has that placed any strains on your marriage or in family life?
Well, Kay is just a super person. She's adjusted to it real well. And she doesn't have an ego problem about me, because people will come up and see me, and I'll always introduce her and make sure that she gets to share in some of that.
Doesn't bother her that she's the wife of?
No, I think she's kind of proud of it.
What about the kids? In school, has it been tough, or has it been good, or has it been mixed, being the sons and daughters of Dr. Don?
It's been mixed. I'll give you the worst part. One of the kids went up to one of our sons, who will remain nameless at this point, and said one time, "Hey, your dad stinks." And this son said, "Oh, yeah?" And that's exactly what he did.
I had a feeling
the guy. And on the other hand, there are some advantages. For instance, I can get tickets to the movies, or, you know, we can go down to Marine World or Great America, and there are lots of goodies like that. And then there are other things that I'm asked to do, and I'll say, well, I don't do it because Sunday is my family day. But if it's a family type thing and we all get involved, then we all have a lot of fun doing it.
Your family's very important to you.
Number one.
Who are your family?
Well, let's see. I just happen to have a little picture of them. On the far left is our youngest son, John. He's a sophomore now at Cal Poly. Oldest son Dave is next to him, and he's working with SDI in Southern California now, the Star Wars thing. He's a first lieutenant in the Air Force. And there's Kay. Kay hates pictures, but we got her to smile for this one. And I don't know who that guy is next to her. She ought to turn him in for somebody who looks a little younger. And then there is our, I used to say, Kelly, you're my favorite daughter. And back before she understood what that meant, she laughed. Oh, gee, thanks, Dad. And Kelly and the guy on the end are twins, Kelly and Dan, and they're 25-ish now, and are in real estate. And then the tall guy with the big smile is Jay, and Jay's the only one that's also in radio. He's over in Concord at KKIS AM and KINQ FM, and he's the chief engineer at the tender age of 21.
21. Well, and what
there's one other guy. This is Lil Jeff, and we were talking about my amputation a while ago. The day that they were going to take off the leg, Julia and Dave flew in, and right before I went in for surgery said, Dad, you're going to be a grandpa. And that's when I found out about Jeff, and I thought that was really amazing.
Boy, sure.
That on the day they're carving up the oldest generation, the newest generation is already on the way.
Yeah, well, that was a nice gift to wake up to.
It was a beautiful gift.
Talking about the future for a moment, Don, you mentioned a little while ago you needed new challenges. A sailboat provided that, but you've had it for a while now. What new challenges?
I'm selling the sailboat.
What's next?
So we're going to buy a motorhome, and Kay and I are going to take it out, and maybe we'll even try some broadcasting in it. But I think that'll be just a fun thing, and it's something, Kay did not like sailing, so this is something that she can share in too.
Any thoughts about retirement?
Oh, I don't think so now. At some point in time I will, and hopefully before people get tired of me, I'll have enough good sense to get out while I'm still, you know, on top.
Don, you talked about preparation. You go home, work 4 or 5 hours each day after your show, preparing for the next day. What does that involve, actually?
Oh, shucks, it's simple. All I do is go through maybe 300 or 400 or 500 gags, extract the best, rewrite them into my style, put them together in comfortable little groups, and then arrange the thing in a nice order.
Do you find that tedious or enjoyable?
It used to be tedious until I got my computer. And I really kind of enjoy working with the computer because it helps you think. It organizes your thoughts, and you realize this thought needs to go here and this thought needs to go here, and I'll get it down, then I'll come back and polish it and change the words around to make it perfect. So first you get the thought down.
For anybody watching the show who wants to go into broadcasting beyond the air, whose kids maybe want to go on the air, what last words would you have for someone in terms of the challenges that it represents?
I think I'll stick with what I said a while ago. You got to discover who you are and what you can do it, and at the same time, the corollary, discover what you can't do and don't do it. Oh, and there is one other thing you could also do. You could listen to a very good disc jockey who's on the radio every morning, 6 to 10 on KFRC, and there is my card.
Thank you very much, Don.
See, you can tell I'm here to stay. They gave me cards.
Thanks for your time. It's been fun.
Enjoyed it, Tom. Thanks.
What a guy. Risking money is one thing, but the larger risk in business is risking yourself. Risking rejection, your health, the opportunity to live a normal life. Now that's risky business. And I'm Tom Sillin.
The power of 610. KFRC. Let me give you for example. How are we coming in San Jose this morning, Lois? Okay, is it raining down there? This was a surprise. Supposed to be gone today. And also, I got more bad news. You're caller number 8. I hope you'll keep trying.
There's a lot of sexual innuendo on the show.
Innuendo? Isn't that an Italian suppository?
Listen to your show sometime. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'll tell you, I have to talk about sex because it's so popular. It has a good central location. That's why it's popular.
Well, I don't know about you. It's been one of the most fucked up mornings I've ever spent.
Oh, it's your fault. You came here.
Oh, it's your fault. You agreed to it.
I really think you started it. Because now do I get to go pee?
They told me you'd make a good guest. Yeah.
In fact, it's really time.
I gotta take a shit.
Now. Oh, this feels so much better.
Oh, let me out of here.
Okay.